Coming, and thanks, Laurel, for inviting us and for this wonderful series, too, that brings poets together from all different places, poets who don't know each other, communities of readers and writers who don't normally interact, and that's really what Verse Wisconsin's mission aims to do, too. So we hope to see more of you there in the future. I'm going to read a poem to start with that's very new. I don't usually do this, but it's one that I wrote going home from one of the really large rallies a couple of weeks ago, and it just kind of popped into my head all together, exactly more or less like what it looks like on the page now. Wisconsin like water. Freezes hard, so thick you can cross it in winter every inch. Cracking, cries in spring, splintering lakes don't quiet change their states. Wears away stone, drop by drop, forms thin streams that slice mountainsides. When dammed, pools, leaves its mark higher up every house, every fence. Released, rushes down riverbeds, deep channels thought long dried out. Drizzles, drums, drenches, pounds, pelts, pours, soaks, stings, thunders, blizzards, cleans. Rises from every mouth, convergence of neighbors' mingled breath. How many of you have a copy of the Wisconsin Poets Calendar in your possession? Oh, not many. Well, I'm glad I brought my poem. And I can tell you about the Wisconsin Poets Calendar, which is a great project that, and there are copies out front.
There are many
copies. This is a project that the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets runs, and it's a really wonderful opportunity for Wisconsin poets who don't always normally get together or know each other to meet. In its pages, it's open to anyone with a Wisconsin connection, and the 2011 calendar is out there. The 2012 calendar is under production right now. Sarah and I will be co-editing the 2013 calendar, and I guess our call for that will go out next fall sometime, so I hope you'll all consider participating in that. The call will be on the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets website, wfop.org, and also on the Verse Wisconsin website. And this is my poem that's in the calendar this year. It's called The Arts in America, which is a very dear topic to me as I work as an arts administrator and also on the magazine, and have many opportunities to think about the arts in America. Each frozen February limb becomes a chime, each branch brushed against, an instrument the accidental shoulder plays upon. The distraught, attempting balance arm, turn conductor, turn baton sets on. And when wind commences upon that cue to blow, 1,000 icy fingers start to shake, to make, as they strike one then the next, a most extravagant symphony, harmonium whose glass parts shatter when struck, plucked, stopped, so that the day following this rare concert, fragments of its brasses, woodwinds, strings line the path. Mysterious remains for those not among the audience of this premiere, this one and only under-publicized performance. I like to write a lot in forms. That poem was actually a sonnet. The first poem was written in syllabic lines, and this next one is a prose poem. I started writing prose poems about 3 years ago, and have been doing a lot with those lately. This one is based on an article that I read about a man, Ronald Watkins, who was singing at the time for the Lyric Opera in Chicago. And when the Iraq War started, he happened to also to be in the Guard, and he was called up in the middle of the opera run of Die Fledermaus. So I couldn't resist that as a subject. And this is called Command Performance after Die Fledermaus for Ronald Watkins, soldier and singer. A call up, not call back. The role requires quick change. Father, husband, to empire builder, aristocrat. It's a part for which our hero auditioned, but didn't imagine landing at his age, despite the drills, the endless rehearsals, despite the growing demand for new choristers, solid baritones, especially scarce in this now long-running revival revenge piece, in which the supernumeraries waltz across the stage, tossing down champagne, then lie to their spouses about where they've gone and when they'll return, smiling all the while as if this were a comedy, when they know that the only way that anyone's getting off stage soon is on a stretcher. But they're up there in the middle of this interminable, intermission-free international tour, pretending to have the time of their lives, pretending not to sweat in the scorching heat inside their heavy costumes, while guards, disguised as maids and butlers armed with elaborate timepieces, prevent the actors from leaving or breaking character. Family watch from theater seats, like anyone else, waiting for prearranged signals. A head tilt, a finger lift, slight shift of weight between the feet, any of which alterations of choreography means something, although the actors underneath blinding lights can't receive the messages ingenuously directed their way. Except for the backers still stalking a profit despite enormous losses, interest in the production has evaporated. The audience watches, creates its own intermissions, gets up to stretch and wander off, sometimes returning, sometimes not. The singers wonder how long it will take to wash the grit from their lungs when the curtain comes down, and they take their bows if anyone's still there to applaud. They want to sit in their dressing rooms, take off the hot wigs and the makeup, ignore the merciless thunder of incoming reviews, and cry, because they've been acting longer than they'd have thought possible, while stagehands, quick and quiet as lightning, strike this tired, this worn-out set. And in the spirit of collaborative ventures, I'm going to read just one short section of a poem that I wrote with my daughter. That was actually, the occasion was a celebration of the landscape architect Jens Jensen, whose, I guess, centenary it was this year, and our neighborhood association invited us to come and do a reading, and we decided, well, you know, if we're going to do a reading for Jens Jensen's centenary, maybe we should write a poem. So we did together, and we've written some other things together too. And then we came up with, as a framework for the project, using his book, which is called Siftings, and then picking out, so it's kind of a cento, picking out his words and editing them, and then each section of the poem that we wrote in a different form. And some we wrote together, some we wrote separately, and then we put it all together as one long piece. But this one is called Early Impressions, and it's a ghazal, and you probably know a ghazal ends with a line that is the signature of the two writers involved, and so with my name, Wendy, and my daughter's last name, Dubois, we had lots of options for a nature writer. So, Early Impressions. They too have a horizon that calls. The prairies have mystery, urging pioneers like prairies. Like oases, homes of man scatter over them. They are inhabited and human, the prairies. When mist lies over the plains, they become a sea that gives a far more secure feeling as prairie. One cannot hide or defy one's enemies from behind cliffs. They must be friendly, folks on prairies. Still new, their influence on the creative mind. Great artists have grown and will come from the prairies. New forms out of which I planned my life's work have grown from the winds, the wooded borders of the prairies. And now I just want to read a few poems from the project that Sarah talked about. Some of our poems that we like overlap, so she took one of mine, but that's good because that's one less that I have to read. But we're just so amazed at the work that came in and the generosity of people sending us work. And I wish I could share some of the visual work that came in too. So I really encourage you to go to the website and take a look. And if you're on Facebook, to follow Verse Wisconsin. We've been publishing the work there, the poems and the visual poetry as notes, so you get them one at a time that way.
And there's a couple of songs too.
Yes, there are songs, and more songs to come. I have actually several songs that I haven't put up yet on Facebook or the website. So the first poem that I'm going to read is called "The Children Must Learn to Read" by 3rd grade by Jill Stuckenberg. The children must learn to read by 3rd grade. Those words aren't going to read themselves or do much else for our economy. The prisoners must lead the 3rd graders who can't be trusted, who can't be invested like money can in greeting. And what about the money? The teachers have hidden it where no one will look. Inside the prisons, inside the books. In a Wisconsin Public Market by Marilyn Wendell. Socrates, teacher, take up your toga hymn. Sit at the foot of marble capitals on the stone ledge in the Agora. Question and debate with your followers, your students, so eager for your next word, amidst shouts of sardine sales, olive oil reservoir bargains. Impart knowledge, not to 5, but to the 45, who come now to your class with thoughts of suicide, with knowledge of abuse, with shakes of epilepsy, with allergies to peanuts, chocolate, test-taking, with knives, handguns concealed, with latent anger and muscle memories of drive-by, trigger finger power. Socrates, teacher, in this age of reason, see through faulty argument to truth, to right, to justice. Your time again has come to make a difference in education, in civilization. Wisconsin beckons. Steam by Brent Goodman. I am not political, but even the Capitol's bathroom windows are bolted shut. I wish this were a metaphor. One in, one out. No signs, flags, or books. The officials I didn't vote for access the People's House through a secret tunnel system once only rumored to exist. To the New Student Protesters by Thomas R. Smith. Best of all is to see the young and meditate on the law of unintended consequences. The governor's hardline arrogance mobilizing a new generation to learn one of democracy's most glorious lessons, that there is not only duty, but joy in the combining of voices. Though now we're gray, and you're the vivid ones, every cell in us resonates to your bullhorn. Standing today less for ourselves than for you, we lean easier into aging bodies and visions, loving the early spring wind wafted by your light, shining spirits. Our old romance with hope stirs again, that we might yet establish the beautiful community and that you may still lift the dream forward to places we've only imagined. Gray hairs who, like Moses, won't live to see the promised land, but will be carried in your hearts toward that fulfillment. Noise by Catherine Gale. Noise is always the enemy, the throat's immense clearing, teeth who are into it, lungs, ears, and tongue, determined to cut, splice, dice, berate, and degrade a people's identity until people make a song so strong it drowns all bullies, drowns them good. And I'm going to finish with a poem that I wrote that was also in this issue. And it's actually the conclusion to an essay that I wrote that's called The Essay That I Begin Writing While Walking to the Wisconsin Capitol, Trying to Discern the Right Question, 2/24/11. So anyway, this is the poem. It's a prose sonnet that concludes it. It's called Relying on Your Imagination to Discern the Question. At the Capitol, 2/25/11. Because what's the point if you're not enjoying your life? Because neither of us is getting any younger. Because it is an unseasonably pleasant February day in Wisconsin. Because it is an unpleasantly seasonable February day in Wisconsin. Because my children are with me. Because who needs all this stuff, this house, these plates, this bed, these chairs? Because it all comes down to backstory. Who we and why we. Because there's free Ian's Pizza from Finland and Arkansas at the top of the hill where we listen to Rabbi Beitch. Because you can read the news on Aval's bookstore windows, and on Facebook, and in poems, and on people's faces. Because Tammy Baldwin, my congresswoman, and Beth Kaiser, my children's grade school cello teacher, stand on either side of me. Because ROTC kills. Because my husband writes solidarity on his sign in 7 languages while my teenagers get out their magic markers. Because poetry and plays come from one place. And theatrical gestures aren't stunts or tricks or mere or even jest. Because 14 senators are just enough to make a sonnet if you're careful. And I am letting go of perfect all the time, and sometimes the performance is the poetry. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Sarah and Wendy.